Let me introduce myself. I'm Paul Schmidt. I'm the Executive Director of Road to Recovery, and we will start the webinar in just a couple of minutes as people join. We want to wait till everybody gets a chance to join and where the attendance plateaus out a little bit, which usually is 3 or 4 minutes after the hour. If this is your first time joining us, I'll just remind you that we do record these presentations in English and in Spanish, and we'll be doing so as this time, and also have simultaneous translation that will occur throughout the presentation. We'll have a presentation of maybe about 30 minutes or so, and then have plenty of time for conversation, question and answers, etc. We're so happy to have Pablo join us here to make this presentation. He is stepping in for us at the last minute, so double thanks to you, Pablo, for doing it. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome again to those who've joined the Road to Recovery monthly webinar series, and we're excited to have this presentation today. I want to remind you before we get to that, that next week, for those of you who are a part of a species working group, that we will have our last session on the recovery wheel, a resource that we have developed with Road to Recovery, and we mostly Katie Holland has been going through monthly over the last several months, sections of that wheel that we hope help species working groups do some self-evaluation and design their programs towards a recovery of that species. That forum will be next Wednesday at 3 p.m. And if you want to sign up for that or register for that, please look at our website, r2rbirds.org, and you can easily register for it, and it will prompt you from there. So I hope you can join us, particularly if you're with a species working group, but everyone is welcome to join. And with that, let me introduce our graduate fellow, Kat Temple, who will introduce the presentation and facilitate it from there. Kat?
Thanks, Paul. Today we're going to hear from Pablo Gigy Gregoret. Apologize if I say your last name incorrectly. I forgot to practice with you beforehand. He is a park ranger technician and an undergraduate biology thesis student from Córdoba, Argentina. He works on conservation of saline lakes in South America with the primary focus on Wilson's phalarope. He is part of the Flyways Program of Manomet Conservation Sciences and the executive director of Western Hemisphere Shorebird Reserve Network. Currently, he is part of the International Phalarope Working Group steering committee, and he is leading the Phalaropus species Monitoring and Tagging Subcommittee. While he's worked with birds, he's also worked with arthropods in southern South American ecosystems. He always approaches them from an ecological and conservation perspective and scale. Everyone, please welcome Pablo.
Hola, hola a todos. Hi everyone. I just want to make sure to welcome English speakers also. I'm gonna give my presentation in my native language, that is Spanish, but just hi everyone. Hola a todos. Muchas gracias por estar acá.
Once again, thank thank you all for coming. Thank you for coming to this presentation. So, yes, I was saying that I will be doing my presentation in my mother tongue, Spanish. So, please, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, concerns, any issues with between languages, maybe other languages as well, I'm confident that we'll be able to troubleshoot them. So, Paul, Kat, thank you so much for the invitation.
To our team for the invitation. Hoy vengo a
So,
presentarles
today I want to talk about the study and conservation of the common Phalaropus in the American continent. My name is Pablo Gigy Gregoret, and as Kat was saying, I'm a conservation specialist and I work for Manomet in saline lakes in South America. So, our species of interest today, species I want to talk about, is Wilson's phalarope. Out of all the 3 phalarope species, this is the largest, and it is also the most common phalarope in continental lakes. Broadly speaking, it's a species that is more waterborne than other species. This is why you'll find some specific traits, such as the semi-lobulated extremities and phalanxes, and you find them especially in saline lakes throughout the continent. Aside from that, they group in their groups have hundreds, sometimes even thousands. You can see this video recorded in the main site where I work. That is the smallest lake. I'll give you more details on that in a moment. But it is truly something to behold. And I'm not just saying that because I work with that species. It is truly a wonderful spectacle to see all of these birds in their dancing, their airborne dancing. So the distribution of the Wilson's Phalaropus is the same as any migratory species. You'll see up here in this image, in the orange rose-like color, you'll see that there's the reproduction sites, the mating sites, are very far into North America. In blue, you see the sites where they migrate in non-mating seasons, and in yellow, you'll see the stops that they take along the way during the migration routes. You'll see here images of their mating coats, and the female is also a little larger than the male. It's also an interesting trait. So why do we talk about salt lakes, or saline lakes? I know. Oh no. Hello? Oh no. Oh no. Hello? What happened? ¿Qué pasó? Connected secures. What happened? Pablo seems to be frozen. Oh, it's not just me. My apologies.
Hola.
Hello.
Today broke. No, it's frozen.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm gonna try to change the Wi-Fi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. Sorry all. Okay. Disculpen.
My apologies, everyone, again. I'm so sorry. That's my internet, me being Pablo. My apologies. You can hear me now. You can see the presentation. Yes? Yes?
Okay. Could you tell me when did I freeze? Sorry.
When you started that slide.
This is live?
Yes.
Yes, that slide,
Okay.
Pablo. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Gracias.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. My apologies. So let's start over. As I was saying, we ask, so why is it that saline lakes are so important for the species? Well, the main reason is that because there's plenty of invertebrate species in saline lakes, much like the saline Artemia here. And this makes it so that it is an easy place where the Phalaropus can find its game and eat in abundance. So we see some very large saline lakes that are very important for this species, among others, throughout the American continent. So these saline lakes will be especially important in this presentation because these are the places where a lot of studying and research and conservation action is taking place for the species. Aside from that, these 4 sites are part of the Western Hemisphere Shorebird Reserve Network, which is an initiative that has been 40 years in the making and actually working. And so important sites for shorebirds are determined, not just the Phalaropus. And they're chosen not just because they're important for mating or feeding grounds. It's also places where they stop along the way in their migration routes. So in this image, you'll find all 4 lakes that I mentioned in the previous slide. And in fact, I wanted to tell you that in 1992, there was an initiative to do a twinning process for all of these saline lakes. The Great Salt Lake in Utah, Lago Mono in California, and Mar Chiquita Lagoon in Córdoba, because they're so important for Wilson's Phalarope. In fact, we celebrated 24 years, the 24th anniversaries, and celebration was held in Mar Chiquita Lagoon in Argentina, as well as Lago Mono in California. So this initiative resulted in the creation of the International Task Force, or International Phalarope Working Group. This is the logo, and I'm sure you'll see it everywhere now in this presentation. I have it in my own screen. Now, the main focus of this group, their purpose, is to promote, facilitate, and coordinate conservation activities, also research, management, etc., that apply to all 3 Phalaropus species throughout the American continent. Why 3 species, you ask? Well, I will be focusing on Wilson's Phalarope, but there are plenty of colleagues in this group who are also focusing on other Phalaropus, the redneck Phalaropus and the other Phalaropes. So yes, these are also an important part of our international task force. So what's happening in saline lakes? Saline lakes, as you saw in this presentation, as well as others that Shirley will be mentioning throughout the presentation, are all threatened by all face similar threats and challenges, mainly the use of water from contributing lakes. The increase in human populations entails an increased use of water resources, not just for direct consumption, but also for irrigation purposes to grow crops. This makes it so that the water flow that are naturally come to these lakes are not the same, and so of course the saline lakes are affected. Also, climate change is having an impact on the salt extraction levels and the amount of water. Also, the use of pesticides, antibiotics, heavy metals, and different industrial processes have their own effect. I wanted to share these images with you. Here's a picture of the Great Salt Lake in Utah, and here we have images as to how we've seen changes over the last 40 years. Also, Mar Chiquita and Lago Mono. These are striking images showing a remarkable decrease in water levels. And that is not just because they are drying somehow, and it's not just because of climate change. It's not just because of the flooding patterns that have changed. It's also because of the deregulation of the use of water in contributing rivers for each of these lakes, as I was saying before. So, if saline lakes are in danger, then the Wilson's Phalarope is going to be affected. They will be going to be in danger. In fact, plenty of studies have shown a decrease in the populations of these species. The International Phalarope Working Group has, well, we all work in different actions in an attempt to reverse this issue. Therefore, in this presentation, I would like to list some hemisphere-wide actions that have been taken throughout the American continent to favor the phalarope and to preserve saline lakes. I'm going to show you 3 large pillars or lines of work, which clearly are very closely intertwined. Number 1, research and monitoring. We work in research of saline lakes and local movements and population trends, and we also look at local movements of the species. And finally, of course, immigration connectivity. When it comes to conservations, we work on plans and proposals for conservations, as well as supporting current actions for management and conservation actions on site. We also have a line of work on education and community involvement, or community engagement, sorry. We do information exchange opportunities for the youth, conservation school, and I'll tell you in a moment about the ambientale experience. Now, none of this would be possible without the existence of the International Phalarope Working Group. And again, connection is key. To work within a network is absolutely essential. And in fact, plenty of the activities that you're going to see in a moment, they're under the supervision of different organizations. And of course, there's numerous organizations that are also involved in the development of all these actions throughout the continent. Let's look at them one by one. So, research and monitoring. So, in South America, for monitoring purposes, we carry out population surveys to analyze population trends and local movements. Now, the smallest lagoon, that would be the largest lake in Salt Lake in South America, or the one that brings in most of Wilson's phalarope individuals. At one point during the year, we have half of all phalaropes in this lake. It's extremely important. So what we do are surveillance flights. We divide the lake in different routes in order to analyze not just population monitoring, but also the use of habitat. In this map, you'll see the accumulated abundance during the season, and this final season, between 2024 and 2025, during non-mating season, when the phalaropes are here in South America. And in this way, we can tell if there are significant differences among the different sites, and it gives us an idea of the spatial distribution of the population in the region. Moreover, it is very interesting to know this data because these population surveys allows us to make deductions and to reach conclusions in other species. It's very useful data to study other shorebirds. And so this is the reason why I was invited today, because some of the target or the indicator species studied in the R2R initiative are also found in Mar Chiquita Lagoon. In fact, all 7 species on screen are all in the orange list. And the Lamosa hemestica, is in the red list. It's one of the more interesting species for the Road to Recovery initiative. Aside from that, when we work with migratory bird populations, it is critical to analyze all the sites, not just locally, but also regionally, and to analyze the different types of connections in between the saline lakes. We look at 4 specific sites in Argentina during the non-mating season. That is the Epecuén Lake, the La Picasa Lagoon, Mar Chiquita Lagoon, and De los Pozuelos Lagoon close to Bolivia in the northern Argentina. Now, it's very interesting to see how there is a sharp decline in population in between January and February in La Picasa Lagoon. where we ceased to see birds during the month of February. And at the same time, there was an increase of the individuals in the Los Pozuelos lagoon at the same time. Now, there is a potential explanation for this, since northward immigration starts and eventually will reach the northern part of the continent. Also, population surveys are done by other organizations and other task forces in North America. They're headquartered in Canada and the United States. These are the 6 main sites where these surveys are done, and they're done during the time frame of 1 week, and they are led by each of these organizations and coordinated by locals. For that reason, I want to give a special acknowledgement to Ryan. Thank you for being here with me. So again, these population surveys can give us a regional picture of the behavior of these Phalarope populations. If we zoom in Mono Lake in California, during the migratory season and mating season, bear in mind that we do surveys and measurements every 2 weeks, whether it is on foot, on boat, or airborne. Also, in addition to research, in South America, we are working on a physical-chemical property studies in certain South American lakes, mainly in Mar Chiquita, but also in others. It allows us to further understand the habitat of the species. At the same time, in North America, habitat analysis and habitat characterization studies are taking place to understand the lives of Phalaropes. So there is an abundance of data that is collected in all 6 sites in North America, in addition to our habitat analysis in South America. All this in addition to the use of satellite images and analysis of the water bodies according to season and the type of the use of soil surrounding the lake. We can establish relationships and analyze whether there's an influence on the habitat characteristics and how that relates to the abundance of the species or the numbers of the population. Aside from that, we collaborate with several organizations that are all found and are all a part on the International Phalarope Working Group when it comes to migratory connectivity between the different Phalarope species. I would like to show you some examples of the studies and the work done with the common phalarope or Wilson's phalarope. We fundamentally work with the Motus system to do wildlife follow-up activities. Now, this is a radio frequency technology. It uses teledetection methods. What we do throughout the continent is capturing and labeling certain individuals. We did that in North America. We did it in mating sites in the Saskatchewan province in Canada. And we placed nano tags on 44 individuals. And they're all part of this Motus system. And others mid-journey sites in Oregon and California, and the cellular tracking technology live tag, as well as the low-tech sunbird Argos transmitters. Now, these are different types of tags. The main difference between them is the type of Motus technology, as well as the type of battery they use. Now, in South America, we also capture and label individuals. In fact, during the now mating season in January of 2025, we actually had the first time where we had a successful campaign to capture and label Phalarope individuals. We were able to capture 8. That is a milestone for our own work. We're very happy to report that. And both South American labeled and North American labeled individuals, well, they will rely on Motus towers to capture their movements. We have to remember that both CTT and nano live tags, they all need detection mechanisms using Motus towers. We also worked on this, and last year we installed the first antenna and Modus Tower in central Argentina. It is dual in nature, meaning that it can receive both types of signals, for both CTTs and nanotags. And we also placed mobile antenna. They were installed on the reconnaissance plane that we use to do flights above the lakes to detect whether the individuals are present at the moment of monitoring. So here we have some detection cases. For example, here we have an individual that was tagged in Thule Lake in the United States, and we see that on the right we will also find the same individual, actually two individuals who are labeled in both Argentina and the United States. These are two different examples. Very interesting work, and it's bearing its fruits already. In these images, we see different movement patterns, the different colors of the different tags. What I mainly wanted to discuss here is that the International Phalarope Working Group is an open platform, and you can use this platform to do knowledge and experience exchange. It doesn't offer any funding, mind you, but it does offer a network. It allows you to connect with different partners and organizations working with Phalarope species. And in this year, we opened up the Labeling and Monitoring Subcommittee. I'm the leader of this committee, and so I'll leave you here my address if you want to be a part of this group. We focus on Phalarope capturing and labeling and monitoring. We meet quarterly, every 3 months, and the meetings are amazing. They're very productive, and the experience exchange is very successful thus far. When it comes to migratory connectivity, this has reinforced our hypotheses of dropping populations in Wilson's phalarope. And so, in 2024, there was a proposal developed to include the species within the endangered species list in the United States. Now, it considers several criteria, but some of them will be known to you. The distribution range, in their distribution range, habitats are decreasing in area or they're being heavily modified. Also, the fact that human activity is affecting this species' survival. And in addition to that, last year, the Wilson's phalarope conservation plans were published. You can download it free of cost. You're very much welcome to do that using this QR. Now, this is a document that gathers a lot of information and a lot of work on phalaropes across the years. And it mentions priority actions, and it mentions saline lakes, especially the large ones, and their conservation as one of the most important tasks to see through. It is critical for the survival of the species. But it also includes other actions, such as identifying critical sites to understand the status of the population, the trends, the use of habitat, and, of course, the coordination efforts in place to further integrate monitoring and research. In addition to these conservation measures, all of this data it feeds the plan for endangered species at Manomet, as well as the Western Hemisphere Shorebird recovery network. And it's also being integrated with the management plan at the National Ancenusa Park in Argentina. And this will apply not just to the sites, but also throughout the region. It will be used and integrated to determine the areas for different management actions within the park and in the region at large. Aside from education and engagement, we also work in simultaneous population surveys. So we divide South America in the non-mating areas, and we divide it into the highlands, the high Andes, And in February of 2020, we did the first international simultaneous survey focused on Phalaropus. We surveyed more than 800 sites, adding both regions, and we estimated that we had close to 1 million individuals. That is 30% less than the last estimation of the species. In 2025, we did this activity again, the International Simultaneous Survey, and in the lowlands, I did the coordination efforts, and the data is not ready yet, but very soon we will be sharing that data. Here we have a total of 450 sites that were analyzed. And on the right, you see the sites where we found different sizes of population, sizes of Phalarope populations. So you see that they're highly gregarious birds. Now, why do I mention now that this has a large component that's just for education engagement? Well, because more than 250 volunteers go to work out on the field. They get to know each other. We hold workshops in local sites so that they operate more smoothly when they do their work. And there's some very interesting work that takes place. There's bird watchers that are very knowledgeable about the sites of the species, but they don't know how to use the platforms that we employ to count birds. For example, they are not familiar with eBird. And so we hold small workshops for them to learn how to use eBird. And there's also there's a highly valuable component to the integration of these communities. And then, of course, local and regional surveys in North America. This is another very important component of these actions. We're doing work at the same time for saline lakes. Aside from community engagement and the education component, we also have a program called the Ambientalia Experience. These are high-impact practices for the conservation of the sites of interest. This is because we build up high school student groups led by professors from all of the region in Mar Chiquita Lagoon. We have field visits, we have thematic camps, we discuss many topics in biodiversity and ecology, together with students and professors of the region. Also, the children, and mind you, these are children coming from different places, so there's also a very valuable exchange there. And they work as a youth-led group. There's plenty of play and plenty of learning in biodiversity. And so children will develop community projects on their own, and they will apply to the territory, and they are meant to be implemented in the territory. So on the right, we have a group which collaborates with an entrepreneurship project. They sell tea. They sell hot tea using local herbs. And this has been very good. Last year we had a bioacoustics project developed by a technical school, by a series of students at a local school, so they could have an impact on the conservation of flamingos. Also, we have the Conservation Academy initiative. It's basically the same educational project, but for university students. In fact, here we have Pedro, one such university student who received a scholarship to attend to the Great Salt Lake Forum for him to develop his paper. And here we have other university students who also joined our Phalarope catch and release campaign. And this is also a sort of prize within their own educational program. Finally, we have plenty of opportunities for youth exchange programs. Between 2024 and 25, there was international exchanges between people living in Mar Chiquita Lagoon and Mono Lake in California. Here we have high school students in each of the programs. And in 2025, we received college students from Salt Lake City. They came down to Mar Chiquita Lagoon and they also joined the catch and release campaign for Phalarope individuals. We were successful with this program, as we were telling you. And this is just the latest example, a concrete example that I wanted to tell you about. I'm very happy, I'm very proud, I might add, that I was a part of the Conservation Academy back when I was still a university student. I joined the educational process, and for that reason, I eventually won a scholarship so that I could be a part of the Shorebird Working Group. The last Congress that took place in Canada, I took it upon myself to present the Ambiental Experience Program. And so today I continue to work with Phalaropus. I am from Córdoba. I work at the Mar Chiquita in Laguna Mar Chiquita. And so there is a great value for me and for conservation of my sites to have been a part of this wonderful group of this wonderful program. And I am happy, so happy to. So now to close things. 3 days ago, we received the high school students coming from Lake Mono to do the third high school exchange session. Here we see how was that southward migration. We received the students here in Córdoba for them to know Mar Chiquita Lagoon so that they continue to connect and they can continue to know the twin lakes, which I believe is an invaluable experience exchange. And so this afternoon, in fact, I will be traveling to Mar Chiquita Lagoon to meet them personally. So, yep, today we're leaving on a field trip to look at some of these Phalaropes. With that said, I want to thank you all for your attendance. Thank you for your attention. I want to thank our donors and all of the organizations involved in this wonderful work, all of them who are, in one way or another, a part of the International Phalarope Working Group. Thank you, everyone. Kat, Paul, thank you so much for the invitation. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, thank you so much, Pablo. That was a very informative presentation. If anyone would like to ask Pablo any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand and go ahead and ask them over voice if you're feeling brave. And we'll go from there. I have a question.
Okay.
What is the part of your research and your work that you find the most rewarding?
I think the tagging campaign, la campaña de etiquetado, it's kind of funny also and tricky because I started to work with the species just a little more of 1 year ago, and there were my group that is include of the Sailing Lake group of the Flyways Program of Manomet have been working on trying to tag the species for so long, and I came here with all the knowledge that they already have. Ay, perdón. Paso al inglés y paso al español.
I'm sorry, I'm switching between English and Spanish. I'm all over the place. My apologies. And sorry to the interpreter. So as I was saying, well, clearly all the knowledge that they've built up over the years in order to do this catch and release and tagging, this was only possible thanks to the work of the Manomet Flyways Air Program, focusing on saline lakes. So to finally have a successful campaign for tagging, you don't know what that means. I mean, for the task force, for our working group, it means so much. I think it also is great for the species, for conservation of the species. I mean, that was very emotional, and it was just great. But also very interesting, of course. I mean, there's so much to learn. I mean, the MODIS tracking system is completely new to me, so I am learning on the way as well, on the job. That has also been critical, but also very rewarding.
There is, okay. So Ryan Carl asks, have you been able to compare the total phalarope numbers observed on the 2020 versus the 2025 South America surveys?
That's a good question. Muy buena pregunta. No
As I
todavía.
was saying, great question. And the answer is that is no, not yet. So for now, we're still working on gathering the data. I mean, you can imagine that it's 6 different organizations working on these surveys because again, these surveys are done for flamingo species and other shorebirds as well. So we try to collaborate closely with the High Andes Flamingos Conservation Group and also Aves Argentinas. That's our BirdLife partner here in Argentina. And so for now, I've only been able to process the lowlands, the data coming in from the lowlands, but I don't have robust comparisons yet. I'm sorry. I mean, they're not robust enough for me. I am very excited to see them, very anxious to see them, of course, to see how's that going. Now, spatially speaking, we have been able to determine some of the patterns, and we've seen some sites are repeating themselves. Now, on this slide, I have not been able to put in this data, but there's a very similar map to the one you see on screen showing abundance levels in 2020 and compared to 2025. Now, there definitely are some very interesting correlations, and some sites are clearly very, especially interesting. There have been some changes in the 5 years, and because again, some time has passed between the surveys. But keep your eyes peeled. I will surely be publishing those results very, very soon.
Well, cool. Thank you for answering that question. Juliana has a question in Spanish, and I think this is the translation. It's in the chat. Do you think the exchange gave you another perspective for the conservation of phalaropes?
Sí, totalmente.
Oh, absolutely. So the exchange that I did with Canada, and also the fact that I was also able to visit the Eastern United States and got to know about projects of shorebird conservation projects. I mean, not just on phalaropes. It absolutely gave me, I think, a very nuanced perspective on the level of connectivity and the different types of organizations involved. I mean, people have different working cultures. They look at things very differently. But the purpose is commonplace for all of them. And I know we say this all the time, but to actually see it as a professional, I think it's a very, very interesting experience to say the least, because it's not easy. I mean, you have a constant exchange and it's a tit for tat all the time. I mean, when I started working on this species, I met with a lot of very relevant social stakeholders, not just within my own region, but the entire continent. And we're constantly learning new stuff, and we start to know each other and recognize each other in our different positions and in different parts of our work. I think that really the network, the Western Hemisphere network, is probably the great platform where we all meet, and it continues to deliver surprise after surprise when it comes to conservation on a great scale. And because we do need collaboration, we have to have a collaboration that is as large as the migratory route for this species. And it's also, of course, it's so exciting to work with the species just in another part of the world.
That does sound really fun. All right, Tracy has a question. What are your thoughts on how well the Argos transmitters worked on the phalaropes?
Esa es una buena pregunta. Nosotros.
Really good question. Okay, so we didn't, or rather, scratch that. In Manomet, we have not had prior experience placing these radio transmitters. So I don't know if Cindy's in the meeting, or maybe Anne. Maybe you guys can back me up here, because I know that, for example, in this image over here, in this image on screen, the purple colored tags show the movements done by with that type of tag. But if I'm fully honest, I don't know for sure how useful they were and what was the ultimate outcome.
I can quickly comment on it if you'd like, Pablo.
Gracias, Cindy. Sí, por favor.
Please do. Thank you.
Yes, so as far as the Argos transmitters go, we really only put out 5 of them so far, so I think it's kind of early to comment on how, I guess, well we thought they worked. That was kind of an interesting time because while those birds were migrating south, there was a hurricane that went through. It's a small sample size, so it's just kind of, I think we will need to put more out before we can really say.
Gracias. Gracias, Cindy.
Thank you, Sydney.
Cualquier cosa,
Please,
Tracy,
if Tracy, about your question, if you have any more follow-up questions, or if you're more interested in this transmitter topic, we can continue a discussion via mail when we have some more information. Or otherwise, if you want to join the tagging and labeling the tagging committee, you can do that. You're very much welcome to do that. So in the Great Lakes area, we also do a lot of tagging for individuals, and I understand that they've had their own tagging campaign in the past couple days. So yeah, that's another. Over there, we have some very important partners as well. Also, they support us a lot in our own work, so we are extremely grateful for that.
Well, thank you, Pablo. Does anyone have any other questions for him today? All right, it looks like the chat is fairly silent. Thank you so much, Pablo. Pablo offered to do this presentation last minute, and we are very grateful to him. So thank you, Pablo. And I will hand it back to Paul to wrap us up.
Thank you so much, Kat. And again, thank you, Pablo. I hope you've gotten something out of the presentation today, and a few, a few reminders for the upcoming weeks and months, what's going to be happening in Road to Recovery. First, I should say that our monthly webinar series will continue on August the 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll have another great presentation at that time. Hope you will sign up. We'll have a special opportunity at the end of this month, July 23rd. It'll be later in the evening to accommodate international time zones. We'll have a special presentation from Australia on working with indigenous peoples. And I think that's an important topic for any species working group working throughout the hemisphere. So please look at our calendar that shows up on our website on the front page, r2rbirds.org, and stay abreast of those opportunities. I mentioned early on that next week we'll have the last in the series on the recovery wheel, the wheel that you'll see prominently displayed on our website that we hope our species working groups will use. And last but not least, we will resume the species working group forums in September. Likely date will be September 17th, and topics that will hopefully be very, very relevant to the work of these groups. So with that, again, thank you, Pablo, for all of your work and certainly the presentation. Originally, we had hoped to have a presentation on Wimbrel, but an unfortunate circumstance has had to have that one rescheduled. We hope to bring you that story on the Wimbrel in the coming months. With that, I close today's webinar and thank you all and have a wonderful weekend.
Gracias a todos. Thank you very much to
Thank you
Art team
all.
for the opportunity.